All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. I will also give another update on my shooting cabinet at the end of this video. So for anybody who's interested in the debacle that I was dealing with this week, I will tell you where we stand at the end of this video. So for those who are new to my channel or you're just visiting for the first time, please take the time to watch the video, and if you like what you see here, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will be notified as I have new videos go up. And for those who don't know, I'm the guy who tells it like it is when it comes to DC updates. I am not a scooper, and I am very anti-James Gunn, and I have my reasons, and they have nothing to do with his personal life. And so I have plenty of videos people can definitely browse through and watch that will back up what I'm talking about. But I scour the internet and I gather all of the DC information I can find and bring it to you guys. 90% of the time this information is going to be true. Some of it may not be true on occasion. And if that's the case and I come back, I will clarify that in a following video. So I gather all the stuff so you guys don't have to go look for it. So we have a lot to go over today. David Ayer was all over social media, Twitter yesterday, or whatever you want to call it, X or whatever it's called now. He was all over there laying down the law yesterday, and it was pretty fun to watch. I actually grabbed quite a few screen grabs, and we're going to see what he had to say, but we have plenty of stuff to go over today, so let's take a look at what I've grabbed since my last video. All right, so the first photo I have here says that Blue Beetle director confirms that the green light that attacked the Scarab during the opening sequence was actually from a Green Lantern's ring. And, you know, I think this is another cheap shot to try to get people into the theaters to either watch it again or to say, look, I'm trying to make it connected more to the DC universe rather than what Blue Beetle was by itself. Now, I do want to make a clarification on something that I thought the director had made a comment on in the past and what I was looking for in the film, and wasn't there because I wasn't looking in the right place. He had made reference to that he was going to have a bunch of references in the film to Man of Steel because he loved that movie. I was looking for direct references in the film by the characters in regards to Man of Steel and the things that happened in that movie to connect it to this film. But what he did instead, and what I was just totally not clued in on, was that he was going to connect some of his shots and some of the other things that he did to the film. And yes, there are plenty of shots like the one above that does mirror what we saw in Man of Steel. So he does, you can look at it one of two ways. He either copied it from Man of Steel, plenty of different things, or he is playing homage to it, which he claims he did because he really likes Man of Steel. And I'm going to trust that that's what he really meant. But this here, I think, is just a cheap trick to try to get people into the theaters. All right, so the next photo I have here, it says, after being stuck in development for 5 years, Warner Brothers live-action Nightwing movie has reportedly been canceled. This is from Screen Rant. Humberto Gonzalez. I don't really care for Humberto Gonzalez, but I do like Screen Rant in general, and they do usually bring really good information. And this is actually a shame. It would have been tied to the DCEU, which would have been cool and would have furthered whatever was started with the other films. But since that's being all scrapped, it makes sense that this is being scrapped as well. But I'll tell you, in the Titan show, the guy who played Nightwing did an amazing job. I wouldn't mind seeing him back again. Now, I found this tweet to be interesting. It said, James Wan originally wanted Aquaman to be an R-rated horror film since he's a horror director. But Warner Brothers wanted the movie to be family-friendly. And the third act, Battle, would have included the Justice League fighting off Ocean Masters' invasion across the globe like Justice League Throne of Atlantis. First of all, that would have been epic in scope. The last film was epic in scope, especially that last battle. And this looked like this was going to be no different, but he was going to ratchet it up. They have some stills from some of the, the storyboards here. This would have been pretty cool to see. I don't know if this is true or not, but I do know that Wan was going to be directing a Trench movie that was an offshoot of Aquaman. When they relaunched Aquaman with the New 52, I believe it was, the Aquaman run at the beginning of that was amazing. They had this whole thing with a Trench storyline with these creatures under the ocean. That would have been cool to see, and that could have very much been an Aquaman horror film, but still keeping an Aquaman in the continuity of the DCEU. But Again, Warner Brothers is completely changing what James Wan originally wanted to do, and so this movie is going to be nothing like what James Wan envisioned, and he's not happy about it. On that same note, somebody came in and said, if you are a major studio and you bring a horror movie director to direct a comic book film, then let them be horror directors and let them make horror comic book films if they want to. And it said James Wan pitched Aquaman as a horror monster movie. And this is where the other photo came from. This is what kind of kicked off that story, and it's true. The kind of the theme of today's video is going to be the studios getting in the way of the filmmakers, and David Ayer had some pretty cool things to say. We will be seeing that here shortly. Now, this really upset me yesterday when I saw this news, but for anybody who is a Batman the Animated Series fan, the original Harley Quinn, the girl herself who brought this character to life 30 years ago, passed away at the age of 67 yesterday. And it appears reports are true that Arlene Sorkin, the voice of Harley Quinn for more than a decade, has passed away. She really was the one who brought this character to life. She was actually an amazing actress, and she will be missed. So staying on the theme of Aquaman today, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will keep its release date. It is going to release on December 20th like planned. The DC film will stick to its Christmas release amid delays of Warner Brothers movies like Dune Part 2, Godzilla X, Kong, The New Empire, and Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim, due to ongoing strike. Yes, and that strike is still ongoing, and I'm telling people, I will be shocked if it ends sooner than what I've heard from insiders. Being a professional actor myself, from what I hear is this strike is scheduled to go into next year. Could be January or February. And if that happens, there's going to be no network television this year, and we will get some releases this next year, but studios are going to be scrambling to try and get stuff done for 2025 to make sure that that slate is full so the investors can start making their money back for the movies that they've invested on. Now, I found this to be a little ridiculous. So this is from Comic Book Resources, and sometimes they just write fluff pieces, and this is one of those. It says, My Adventures with Superman revisits a controversial concept Zack Snyder's movies explored, and only this time it's presented in a positive light. So I read this whole article, and man, it was long, and it was just kind of pointless. It was nothing other than to throw shade at Zack Snyder, and it had to do with making Superman look like a bad guy when he's really a good guy, and how he can manage that with his superpowers, and they just believe that the cartoon is doing it better than Zack Snyder did. You have to understand these are completely different projects, and this show is geared towards kids. I will tell you, I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of this show, and it's not my cup of tea. It is too childish. It is too, I wouldn't say silly, but it's not my style of animation. It's not my style of what I want to see. And I will tell you the color palette for this, every time they would show him as Clark, there were pinks and purple colors surrounding him to make it seem more feminized. And I just didn't care for the look and the style of what they were doing. I may go back and revisit it, but the first 3 episodes I saw just didn't really grab me at all. And this was just a way to throw shade at Zack Snyder. Now, this was pretty cool. It says, Zack Snyder silences critics with Rebel Moon trailer while DCU's disaster run continues with Blue Beetle. Now, they do say DCU, but DCU has not officially started yet, although this was the first character in the DCU, according to James Gunn. We'll see if that changes after the big flop. But this trailer took the internet by storm. And for people who haven't seen it, I did a reaction on it. This trailer was absolutely amazing. I am looking forward to this movie, and I really hope it gets released in theaters. Now, another story from Screen Rant. It says, DC fans want the Arrowverse's Grant Gustin to return to his most famous role, Barry Allen, as the Flash opposite Robert Pattinson in the Batman 2. You know, I wouldn't mind this too much if they created another universe through the Reeves stuff, but I can tell you Matt Reeves doesn't want this to happen. He wants his Batman to be alone in this universe, and he's made it very clear that he will ditch this universe if the studio goes this route. So I don't think this is happening. I don't think this story is true. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I wouldn't mind seeing them create another. Hey, the more the merrier is what I say. As long as they're not erasing stuff that happened in the past, they could easily do this, but they would need to make Grant act different. It would have to be taken more seriously. but he is very competent in that role, and I think would do fine if this is the route they decided to go. Zack Snyder posted this on his Vero account yesterday. It's a really cool, just a picture that was made for Man of Steel, this painting. I think this is fascinating. In fact, I thought the first, 20 minutes of this movie was this movie was ahead of its time. I think if it came out today, it would be better received than it was, 10 years ago. It was just ahead of its time, and that's most of Zack Snyder's stuff. So I think this shot is amazing. It's just, that sequence was utterly cool in the film. So here's what kind of kicked off the David Ayer, getting up on Twitter yesterday, and it was freaking awesome. He came down and laid the hammer down. He said, a dark Superman that did not work because he represents light and hope. Something is not right in your plot. And this person wrote this directly to David Ayer. David Ayer responded with, key to Superman, in my opinion, is his emotional life. He has to wrestle with this immense capability, but is a very normal human mentally, a farm kid from the Midwest. There's an innocence to him. Thereby the darkness hunts his innocent. He can be tricked and gaslit. His goodness can be weaponized against him, and that is incredibly dramatic. The game of I use a word, then get brigaded with examples of my factual wrongness is getting boring. All this is just my stream of conscience. At the moment I write it, my thoughts evolve, my opinions change. Tomorrow, I'll be different from today. And that's what that person had written to him. But he then definitely talks about what Warner Brothers has done to these films. So this is what I thought was awesome. The Hollywood Reporter wrote, where have all the DC fans gone? HollywoodReporter.com. David Ayer responded with, easily solve. Let filmmakers have their vision. Don't operate from fear. Be daring. Look at what worked. Don't chase the market. Man, this statement alone sums up why I originally wanted to start my channel to begin with. My channel was originally going to be called Why I Hate WB and DC. And this is exactly why. The studios get in way of the filmmakers. He said DC has always had the best characters in publishing, and he is 100% correct. Dark, intenseful, and thoughtful is the brand. Thank you, David Ayer. Amazing. Amazing comments from the man himself. So what we had here today was him just laying down the law when it came to the studios interfering and not letting the filmmakers make their vision. He threw shade at what they did to Zack Snyder. He threw shade at what they did to his film. We had epicness coming to the DCEU, and Warner Brothers stepped in and destroyed it all. And that's why we are where we are today. The one gleaming hope in all of this was that they announced that Henry Cavill was coming back, and then just a few months later, James Gunn came in and announced he was gone. What a horrible time for DCEU fans. Warner Brothers has no idea what the fans want, what the public wants, and the recent films show that everybody has lost interest in what Warner Brothers is doing because they don't have a plan to follow. And James Gunn's plan is not that plan. All the goofy stuff he's doing is crazy. All right, so there's my DC update. Now let me talk about this computer. This got interesting the other day. So I finally got the GPU hooked in. It was all working. I got it to come up, but the games weren't using the GPU. So the main emulator that I was trying to get working was Technoparrot. And in Technoparrot, Aliens Extermination, the first with the AMD Radeon card, it wouldn't even, the first stage would just lock up and freeze. All the other stages worked, but they would go at a bazillion miles an hour, and I had to go into the Radeon software and lower the frame rate so that it would stick within 60, and then it would work fine. But when I got this new graphics card in, I went into Technoparrot, and the game was doing the exact same thing, and I'm like, okay, that's not right. That's definitely an AMD thing, so it's still using AMD. So I went into my graphics card settings, and both cards were active. I made the GPU, the internal GPU, inactive so that it was solely using the external. But then my sound disappeared off the computer, and I couldn't even run. Technoparrot wouldn't even start. So I'm like, okay, that's probably because of the sound issue. So that chip does need to be activated for the sound. So I had to turn it back on. And then I did some research online to find out if I have multiple GPUs, how to get a program to use a certain GPU. because when it was loaded, when I got the other card activated again and both were active, I went into it and I double checked, and yeah, the first stage would still lock up, and the second stage would play, but it was too fast. And I said, okay, it's definitely looking at the AMD graphics. Well, this is how you fix this. For anybody who has a Windows computer and you have multiple GPUs, you go to your desktop, you right click, and you hit I forget what button you click. Display settings. So you right click, you hit display settings. You're going to get a window that pops up. One of the bars across there is going to be graphics. So you click that, and it allows you to add apps that you want to be controlled a certain way. So I first added the TechnoParrot app itself, the program itself, still had the same issue. So then I chose the Alien Extermination actual executable file in there, and you go in and you hit this menu, and it allows you to choose which graphics card you want that program to use when you load it. And so I chose the 1660 GTX that I have, and it now plays flawlessly. So I did get it up and running, and I'm going to be tinkering with this probably for a month or more before I get the shooting cabinet up. But I'm going to do a video of what I've done so far with the cabinet and where it's going to end up. And you guys are going to see, everything that I do with this. It'll be one of the videos that I put up. All right, I appreciate all the support. We will see you guys on the next video.